Binge the full weekend free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Made for Love. It's a series on HBO. HBO Max is where I saw it. It is a show that's pretty fun. It's kind of like a little mix of Black Mirror plus Silicon Valley kind of a feel with a dash of Lars and the Real Girl mixed in. Has kind of Upload vibes, the show Upload. Kind of a futuristic, like very, current future. Something that could be happening right around the corner. Takes place. This couple, this tech billionaire, is married to our main character, who is the woman from Palm Springs, Kristen Milioti, I believe is her name. She's married to a tech billionaire who is kind of like an Elon Musk kind of a guy. Kind of reminds me of the CEO in Silicon Valley, the kind of the evil CEO. Kind of reminds me of that, like just somebody that's just super power hungry, doesn't give a shit about anybody else. But she's basically imprisoned in their compound. It's kind of like a virtual reality compound where they can virtually go in. They have like holodecks where they go into a room and it's, this completely virtual space. And she's been stuck there for 10 years. The show starts with her busting out from an underground kind of like a water main kind of a thing. And it's her trying to get away from this husband. Very much like the series really seems to be a lot like an abuse. I mean, it is an abusive relationship, but it shows an abusive relationship in a different way. It's not like this dude hits her, right? We never see that. He's not abusive in that way. He's not necessarily abusive verbally, but he's highly controlling, obviously. I mean, she's basically a prisoner in his compound. And he thinks that he's giving her this amazing life because she can basically, with all of the virtual holodeck kind of stuff and all the technology, she kind of has the ability to kind of just relax and not have to do anything. And he thinks that's perfect life. She doesn't want that life. And so she breaks out. And it's kind of a show where it shows her trying to get out, trying to get away from this abusive relationship, and you get to see her backstory, like who she was before she got with this guy. You see the impetus for them getting together. They just basically went on a date together and got married right away, which is ridiculous because he impressed her with his money and his technology and what he's able to do with his technology. It was impressive to her, so she made a lifelong decision based on a whim. And so you kind of, it's a difficult situation, but the more difficult situation is that she was implanted with this chip. He wants to, basically the technology that this guy wants to create is like for people in relationships to sync their brain waves together so that they know everything that their partner does and their partner knows everything they do, which is something that a controlling egomaniacal maniac would do, right? Somebody that has zero trust, tons of jealousy, just and has like the need and desire to control everything around him. So she's implanted with this chip that allows him to track her. Obviously, it allows him to see through her eyes, basically, spy on her and see what she's doing. So it has that kind of. They play that up in somewhat of a funny way, because it's like a couple's quarrel in a lot of ways, but the one half of that couple is a billionaire, billionaire tech mogul guy. But it's amazing. You get to see her dad. It cuts back to like. When she was a kid, you get to see how she grew up and the people she knows. She came from, she's just basically white trash, very poor, living out of a trailer. Dad's an alcoholic, played by Ray Romano, which Ray Romano, every acting thing he's done is amazing. I love to see Ray Romano. And when I said that this show is Black Mirror plus Silicon Valley with a dash of Lars and the Real Girl, if you haven't seen Lars and the Real Girl, it's a movie about a guy who has a relationship with a sex doll, like one of those kind of anatomically correct. They look basically real. I mean, they're everything is proportioned and looks. I mean, maybe not proportioned, but you get the idea. That's Ray Romano's current wife is a sex doll. And he's like, the whole town knows. It is very much like that side of it is reminded me a lot of Lars and the Real Girl. Like, just, the kind of hate that Lars would get from the community because, and, not only hate, it's very similar, I would say, to what it was like, or still like in certain parts of the country, being in a biracial relationship. Like I would imagine the exact kind of hate and prejudice you would get from being in a relationship with a inanimate object, a sex doll, versus somebody of a different race. I mean, there's just people love to hate anything different, and it's an interesting way to express those emotions with a sex doll instead of somebody from a different race. So that's just like a side thing. That's just like a character trait of Ray Romano, which is crazy. It definitely takes a few episodes, I think, for this show to really kind of set everything up and before it really gets going. But by the end, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the show. I didn't like how the first season ended. The first season ends pretty sad. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of back and forth with her trying to get out. There's a scene where she almost gets the chip removed, but she changes her mind because of what that chip could potentially be worth. And it's like she starts to see that there are other potential paths to take now that she's kind of gained a little bit of freedom. She feels like she's gotten a little bit of leverage. But in reality, towards the end of the scene, she loses all of it. I mean, the end of the scene, just like any movie that has that deals with abusive relationships, it's that scene where she goes back to the abuser. Spoilers. That's how the end of this scene. It's not that, and that's not even the worst part of her going back to this guy. The reason why she goes back to this guy is because she finds out. Once again, spoilers. Go watch the show. It's a fun show. But for those that have watched it, I would imagine you feel the same way, that the reason she goes back to this guy is because she finds out her dad has cancer. And because we live in America, we don't have health care. And because he doesn't have health care, he doesn't want to go through the treatments. But what they do is they basically kidnap him and plug him into the Matrix in a way. I mean, he's not plugged in that way. Everything's like augmented reality, virtual reality kind of a thing. I think they just put a chip in his head, and then he is now in the compound, but he thinks he's in his trailer. So he thinks he's at home, but he's still in the compound, which it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that in season 2. Like, what if he wants to go to the bar? What if, because at the end of season 1, she convinces her dad to go out in public, even though he knows he's going to be shamed. Everybody in town knows that he's in a relationship with a sex doll, but she convinces him to just live his life and take it's basically an anniversary, their wedding anniversary, him and his sex doll wife. And she convinces him to take her out on their anniversary to a restaurant. And so it's like he's tasted what it's like to just kind of live his life free, and now he's stuck in some VR thing, which I'm sure it's like they're not going to be able to just go to a bar. Maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes in season 2, but the way it ends in season 1 is just such a bummer. It's such a downer ending, because she goes back to the abuser. Like, somehow this billionaire guy convinces her, which is like, I hate this shit, right? It's like, and I've seen it in friends that have abusive relationships in some ways. Like, thankfully, I don't have any friends that I know of that are in like physically abusive relationships, but I do know friends who were in relationships with pathological liars, with people that will lie and pretend and live a completely false life, and despite everybody around that person knowing what their true self is, they still live in this fantasy world of lying. And it's like all these people do is they make an effort for like a week or however long it takes for that person to forgive them and go back to the way things were. And then that narcissist just goes back to what they were doing. It's just people are so focused on what people say, right? Because it's so easy to say the right things in the right moments versus studying the actions of these people, seeing how they actually act, and understanding that they temporarily act in a way that makes people forget about how horrible they are, just enough to get things back to normal so they don't have to deal with the reality that they're a complete piece of shit. And that's what this kind of dude is. And but it's like written in a way that's kind of light, you know, because it has that kind of Silicon Valley kind of feel to technology as well, where it's kind of wacky in a way. But overall, like tonally, it's a little weird. But it has a lot of interesting themes. I mean, the characters are super interesting. The fact that Ray Romano, it's like his whole thing is super. He's almost more interesting than the whole show. But I'm excited to see what happens in season 2. I mean, HBO's been putting out a lot of cool shit. HBO Max specifically has a lot of cool stuff. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the show despite it ending in a downer note. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to season 2 of Made for Love on HBO. Hopefully there is a season 2. I didn't even look it up. But if you're looking for a new show to watch, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. It's interesting. Do yourself a favor and get yourself Kindle Unlimited. Go through my link, inspireddisorder.com/Kindle, to get yourself unlimited books. That's right, unlimited reading, listening on any device when you sign up now for Kindle Unlimited. Go through my link and sign up. inspireddisorder.com/Kindle for your free trial. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com, and follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!